college must have been tough.
Or college was actually really, really a fun time.
What did you learn? I learned how to do keg stands nude. Woo!
And don't fry bacon naked.
That's good advice.
Y'all are welcome.
Welcome back.
We made it.
Woo!
So let's talk coaches. Vetting coaches, finding coaches.
Okay.
All right, let's do that. Yeah.
Good coaches, bad coaches?
Football coaches, or what are we talking
No,
about?
definitely voiceover. Definitely.
Oh, voiceover.
Definitely
Okay.
industry related. Come into the group, Al. We'll learn things.
I'm in.
Yeah. Okay. So research. I think that first and foremost, that has always been the number one thing to tell somebody. Do your research.
There's a lot of coaches out there.
There's a ton of them. So
Well, there's a lot of people that say they're coaches too.
Mm-hmm.
I think we have an abundance of that right now. Way too many folks out there. I don't even know if some of these people have booked things. Like they've, the experience level.
And you got to wonder, right? Some of the people who have started coaching,
Mm-hmm.
are they coaching because they're good teachers and they have something to actually teach? Or are they coaching because they're not booking enough and they need income? It's probably some of both.
I'm going to say
That is a
yes.
great question.
Yeah. I would also say this to anyone listening to this podcast. We are not coaches. We are not going to present ourselves as know-it-alls of any sort. We're you. Hopefully we say what you're thinking, and maybe you'll pick up something along the way. Maybe we'll learn something.
And can I also say that sometimes those bad coaches also teach you a lot
Oh, sure.
in terms of what you don't want to replicate, what you don't want to do again.
Sure.
Yes.
That goes for coaches across the board. My husband usually says that about baseball coaches for our son.
Absolutely.
And it's the bad coaches that can teach you too.
I think that goes for life in general, right?
Yeah.
It's all, it's mindset. Harkening back to a couple episodes ago.
Indeed.
Right?
Although I think it's also financial. It's very
sure.
financial.
But if you
right?
have a bad experience with a coach and you only focus on the bad,
Mm-hmm.
then that's not going to help you.
Right.
But even the worst situations typically have something that you can learn from.
Right.
Oh,
And
sure.
even if that's, I wasted that money, you learned something. Right?
You learn to research, or what is the word? To audit a coach.
Yeah, to vet
Right?
your coach.
Sure.
To vet your coach properly.
Sure.
Go try, see if they offer the ability to sit in on a coaching session that they may have, or, just research them a lot online. Find out if anyone in your circle, any of your voice actor friends have coached with them.
Yeah. Just ask. Just ask.
Yeah.
Somebody's heard of these people.
Yeah. So I guess the first question then is, how do you find coaches? And there's lots of resources. Obviously, talking to people is one of them.
Mm-hmm.
What other resources do we have? We've got the Vorg.
Right? The voiceover research guide, which always sounds like a space, like sci-fi thing, right? The Vorg. But it's
like a
quite
combination
helpful.
of the Vogons and the Borg.
Exactly.
Yeah, that.
We are Vorg. Our poetry is terrible.
But also understand, asking folks, their coach may not be good for you.
Right.
It's not like across the board. So how do you find that right coach?
Mm-hmm.
Well, start where you are. What are your interests? Find a coach that does that.
Yeah. Determine what genres they coach in.
Not every coach does everything.
Yeah. Nor should they, right? And I would say even, like, if you find one who says, oh, yeah, I coach for everything, that's probably a red flag. That's probably somebody that you don't want to coach with. Maybe not across the board.
Right.
But it's something that should, raise a little alert in your head to go, maybe I need to think about this, or at least find out more.
Right.
Right? Because typically, I think a coach is probably going to be really proficient in one, maybe two or three at the most genres, right?
Right.
Because depending on what it is, some of them are kind of similar, right? Corporate narration and e-learning are pretty similar. Explainers are kind of in that same realm.
Sure.
But commercial is quite a bit different than animation or gaming.
Yes.
Right?
Very much so.
So if you want to do commercial, which everybody should,
Well, most agents, that's the demo they want.
Well, sure. But if you're not interested, don't, because that leaves more for me.
It is about you.
Well, everything's about me. You should know that by now.
I mean, come on.
But no, if you're not really interested in commercial, even though every agent pretty much wants a commercial demo,
Sure.
maybe you don't prioritize it. Maybe if you just want to do anime or, games and nothing else, then sure, do that. But then find a coach who's specialized in that thing. Find a dubbing coach or find a gaming coach or an animation coach. And maybe more than one, because everybody's going to have different viewpoints and different tips and whatever. And nobody's necessarily wrong. I think ultimately what you need to do is you need to learn the skills, sort of the baseline of skills, and then apply them in the way that makes sense to you for your art, right?
So how would they fit in your life?
Right. So
they're life coaches.
Yeah. So for example, I have sort of a film background.
Spielberg's here.
Oh, crying out loud. I'm not bragging. I'm just relating my life experience. But film is a language, right? And so you have to kind of learn and understand the basics of the language, what the 180-degree rule is and stuff like that, so that you can tell a cohesive story visually. And you need to learn those before you choose to break those rules, right? And very much like language, right? So
sure.
I could say, use guys, and you'll know what I'm saying, but grammatically, that's not correct. But I should learn the correct way of saying
use guys
before I choose to say the wrong thing. You know what I mean?
All of you.
Sure.
Yes.
So, and I think learning a specific skill, learning a genre of voiceover is kind of the same thing. There's going to be certain rules and skills and guidelines and whatever that you should understand.
Sure.
Before you choose to go off and do it different, so that you can do it different on purpose, not just because you don't know better.
Sure. Being a former musician, I completely understand. Songwriting, music is a language.
Right.
Music is a sentence, a structure. To create a song, you have to know the language.
Unless you're playing jazz.
Freestyle jazz, complete excuse to play the wrong note.
Thank you for saying that out loud. That's exactly, I thank you. I'm just going to leave it at that.
Hurts your brain,
Thank you.
doesn't it?
It's so much brain hurt. I do not like jazz. No.
Yeah.
I like blues. Don't like jazz. So shame on me. Shame. But it's true. I mean, so I actually do have a master's in education, specializing in working with adults.
Who's bragging now?
It's called andragogy versus pedagogy, which is teaching of children. I learned how to work with adults and the technologies that are used to teach in terms of learning management systems, LMS. So that's my nerd spiel. And it's very specific in terms of how people learn.
You should be very adept at e-learning.
I should be. I'm very critical when it comes to wanting to work with a coach, because I think the thing is because we're adults, we usually enter into the realm already with these preconceived notions in terms of, I know that. You don't teach me something I don't know. That's basically how most adults sit down in a classroom, or they're like, I've paid my money, because I also taught college. So I've paid my money. I want my A. Like, yeah, you still have to work for it. That's kind of how that works.
Yeah.
But when it comes to voiceover
teach me something
coaches,
I don't know.
Right?
Sure.
Finding someone who has that level of understanding of working, and not just, talking at people, but actually bringing them along so that they understand the concepts of, what do you do when you get a script? A lot of people wing it. And
sure.
I mean, okay, if that's your process, fine. But I find that coaches should really also be mentoring you along the way and finding folks that you just work well with. It's important. And I've had a slew of different coaches, and there's a lot. And again, I've had some bad experiences with coaches and coaching programs, knowing that there's, not just one, but a few that offer like a community college, come in and learn about voiceover, and then they start kind of really selling their wares as a demo mill, right? And that's kind of a model that seems to work for folks. And they feel like, well, it's being offered at a community college, therefore it must be legit.
Must be valid. Yeah,
it's like, no, it's not. And a lot of these folks that are in those programs are really good people. But, you know, I had my coach tell me today too, well, you know, apparently, oh, shoot, how did she say it? Because I don't want to say it out loud if it's not right. And anyway, a really bad person was a good, you know, people thought he treated cats well or something. So it was like, huh, that's true. That's true. There are very good people doing bad things. So I wish I could quote it. I just don't want to because it seems like it would be inappropriate if I misquoted, especially when there's...
Is that similar to those who can't do teach?
And those who can't teach Jim.
Yes.
There you go.
And lots of it.
Yes.
Who's Jim?
Well, if any of you guys have seen the Kaminsky method, which is awesome, that's that whole problem that he's having is the main character is like, well, yeah, he really wants to be back as an actor, but instead he's teaching, right? And I think, you know, that's something we should also be aware of. A lot of these folks that are touting themselves as coaches haven't been on the mic in ages.
Or ever.
But they're saying that they had the experience.
You don't necessarily have to have ever been on the mic to be able to teach it. As long as you've been around it, you know, as a director or something or whatever, right? You don't necessarily have to have been on the talent side to be able to teach how to do it.
No, you could be on the casting side or something like that. But folks that don't have that...
If you've only ever been talent and now you're going to say, well, I'm a coach.
Right.
And maybe you haven't booked anything in 3 or 4 or 5 years. Well, are you actually teaching anything worthwhile?
Or are you just really making money coaching?
Yeah. What can you teach me? How not to book for 3, 4, 5 years?
Right. Thanks. Great. So glad I spent that money. And I think that's really, because this is I hate to use a term, but it is very predatory.
Yeah.
We're finding folks that are not skilled, should not be teaching, period. And then there's some like, I waited a really long time to work with someone, just waiting for the right time, waiting for the right situation, and came across like the reputation's there. I know people that have worked with her. I know some people actually put out information that may or may not be 100% true, but it's usually her competitors that just want to make sure that don't coach with that person. And she's really like the best in the business. So you gotta look for...
I mean, we don't have to hide her name.
Say it.
Nancy Wolfson. She's my coach. I still work with her. I went through her entire curriculum. I am a graduate of the Brain Tracks audio program. And I still work with her every few months. She's amazing.
Yeah.
Nancy, if you're listening to this, these two people love you.
She knows.
I just started and I was just so excited to work with her. I've also worked with for a really long time and I do like his program. I learned a lot and it wasn't until I started with it that things changed for me and I did start booking. I started doing things. His name is David H. Lawrence the 17th. It's a really long story about his name. I resisted training. I think that's really important. And no matter what program you're looking into, I resisted having to get into any kind of program because I had the broadcasting background. So I thought, I know this stuff. But radio and television and news and broadcasting in general is not voiceover.
No.
Right?
What's that you say? It's not the same?
There's transferable skills, certainly. Breath control.
100%.
Absolutely.
100%.
But
right.
Yeah.
You got to dial the enunciation back most of the time because, nobody wants that.
Right. And I was actually told by one of my reps to not tell casting that I have a background in radio because it kind of puts a barrier,
Sure.
if you will, thinking, oh, she's going to come in and I'm just going to
Right.
talk like this the entire time.
Well, it gives them something to look for.
Yeah.
Right.
It gives
Right.
them a reason to say no. And if they go,
Yes.
oh, well,
Exactly.
yeah, you used to be in radio, so now I'm going to listen for you to be too announcery and go, ha-ha,
Exactly.
gotcha.
Haha,
Exactly.
Gotcha. Yeah. So, but it wasn't until I took that step, like, okay. And I started asking, started doing my research. And, I looked at some of these price points going, oof, that's
Oh, yeah. Which is probably another reason you're seeing less qualified people saying their coaches come out, because it's not cheap and people are willing to spend the money.
Yeah.
right.
But once again, you kind of get what you pay for most of the time. There's certainly exceptions, right? And if you don't want to play at the top level, booking national spots and
Sure.
whatever, then maybe you don't need the top level coach. Maybe some local Yahoo who's charging you $30 an hour, who's going to teach you the basics of how to be around a microphone so that you can sound like a local voice talent and do local ads and never go beyond that. If that's all you care about, maybe that's all you need.
Right.
Sure.
But if you actually want to pursue it as a business, you want to be able to go after the big stuff and the little stuff and
Right.
everything. And so that means you need to work with the best people you can as often as possible to build up your skill set.
Sure.
So that you can go up against, the people that you're competing with for those jobs who've been doing this for 30 and 40 years, who can do it in their sleep.
Right.
Because really, this industry has become, especially I think, even more so since 2020 has really become saturated.
Oh, for sure.
So if you haven't, you have to invest. It's part of the investment, right? We talked about your environment. That's part of the investment.
But notice I did say training before environment, though.
Well,
Yes,
you said that the last one also with the room.
Yeah. Environment is the most
space.
important part of your vocal chain.
Vocal chain.
But more important than that is your training. Because if you don't know what you're doing, you could sound awesome and still suck.
And you don't want to make that impression. Right? You don't
No.
you don't want to go out there and say, I'm ready.
Right.
And then
you don't want to read.
You are not ready.
You don't want to read every piece of commercial copy like Guy Smiley from Sesame Street.
You had to pick Guy Smiley.
But to be fair, that's Nancy's term, not mine. Yeah.
Oh, is it? Oh, okay. Yeah. All right. I was having a flashback to
that's a different
really bad
Guy Smiley
interaction in Burbank. It was a whole thing. It's kind of so we'll leave that there. But yeah, research, find out who your peers, who they're going to. Peers that are actually booking helps. Find out who they recommend.
If they're not booking, their opinion maybe doesn't matter as much.
But that actually helps. Who made your demo? I usually ask that too, and then I'm like, oh yeah. Hope you get some good mileage with that.
Yeah, and sometimes coaches don't do demos. So asking the question, "Who did you demo?" That could be a completely different podcast.
Indeed.
And if they don't, you may be better off, because then you're guaranteed pretty well that it's not a demo mill, right?
Sure.
True. And or you should make sure that they're not saying, "Oh well, after 8 classes or however many, we'll get you on the schedule for a demo." It doesn't. It should not work that way.
Well, why don't we talk red flags then?
That's, no, those two are not related.
That's kind of a nice segue into red flags.
Sure.
So, what are some red flags to watch out for from coaches? Obviously, that's a good one. We're going to have, 6 sessions or 8 sessions, and then you'll be ready for a demo. Well, that's a big red flag, because if you've never done voiceover before and you have no clue, you're not going to be ready in 8 sessions. If you have a clue, but you're still new, you're not going to be ready in 8 sessions. It could be months. It could be a year. It could be years.
Mm-hmm.
It takes the amount of time it takes.
That's true.
I know that I had interactions with my coaches prior to starting work with them, but I should be able to find them online and what they're doing and what they have done. They should have something on IMDb.
Maybe.
Right.
Maybe. I mean, for commercial work, that's not going to be on there necessarily, but you should be able to see their body
You should
of
be
work.
able to find something,
It does.
you'd think. Yeah.
Right. And when you interact with them about their program, if they don't ask you, what have you done previously?
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a red flag. Like if they don't care that.
Or what your goals are.
Yeah. Like,
Yeah.
sure. Hey, yeah, we come on into the program. Just pay me the money. You can come on in.
Right.
That's,
They
that's
they
not
should
it.
have an idea.
If they don't ask what your interests are, so they
Mhm.
can say, "I'm
Right.
not that guy."
Yeah,
Let
and
me
I would
refer
hope.
you.
I'm sure
Right.
I'm sure most coaches probably don't do that, but I would hope that at least a good chunk of them do. That, when they first meet somebody, before you start training with them, they find out what you're interested in, what your goals are, and if they're not the right coach for you, tell you that.
Yeah. Don't take my money.
Like, respect the fact that I'm going to pay you thousands of dollars over the next year,
Mhm.
enough to say, you know what? I'd love to work with you, but I don't do XYZ, or I'm honestly not the best coach for video game work. Instead, I would recommend
Sure.
this person or this person or this person. But if you want to work on commercial or you want to work on whatever else they do, then yeah, let's do it if you're interested in that. But if you really don't want to pursue this thing that I'm really best at, I don't want to take your money. I would hope that a coach would say that. Now, I
Right.
don't expect most do. I'm sure some do.
Probably not. Yeah.
Right, like Nancy, I know, isn't going to take somebody who only wants to do video games, because her thing is commercial.
Right. Right.
I'm sure she'd be happy to refer you to somebody if that's the only thing that you want to do. She might also tell you that you're stupid if you don't want to do commercial, which if you don't want to do commercial, that is kind of stupid. She probably wouldn't phrase it that way, but
Probably not. Because, I mean, there are some folks that I know of that that's just not their
Right.
thing. They would rather do e-learning or corporate narration or something like that because commercialism just sounds icky. Even if that's a good income for a lot of folks, they would still rather do something different.
sure.
Here's something off topic. If you can believe that, I'm going to throw something
can't believe
off
it.
topic.
What?
I know. In your opinion, what's more competitive, commercial or the e-learning?
I would say commercial.
I would also agree. Commercial.
Okay. Well, people listening to this would be wise to hear that, because you're right. Because if you're going to throw yourself into the commercial pit, you better be ready for it, because that's where everyone wants to be. There's your competition. If you're choosing this as a hobby, you may not want to jump in that pool.
If you're just going to pursue this as a hobby, then honestly, you're probably best off seeking out, fan dub animation stuff and, doing royalty share audiobooks or something, because you really like to read.
True.
Or better yet, do them for free for LibriVox because it supports, people who need assisted reading.
Sure.
But yeah, certainly you wouldn't want to try out for commercial if you're
That's
not.
actually a good topic because I think that
If you're not interested in pursuing it as a business, there's the level of competition for commercial and, higher end animation and video games. It's so high that I think you wouldn't be able to take it. You'd be too discouraged, I think. Because you have to really want it.
Don't you find it interesting though how many people will come into voiceover and that's what they want to focus on? They really want to do animation.
It's like everybody on Twitter.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I'm one of them. I'm not gonna lie. I like all of the genres.
I would love to be in a Pixar film or a DreamWorks film or something. 100% would love it.
Right? Yeah. And it's highly competitive. It even takes it up a notch because now you're up against celebrities. Right. So that's even like, oh, okay. But I think going back to coaches though, they should be getting that information from you and asking that, like, where do you see yourself? What sort of genres are you interested in or mediums? and, going from there.
Well, they should be doing more than just teaching you how to speak. They should be guiding your career.
Your business.
So you're right. These things should be important questions.
Depends on the coach, though, right? Like, certainly you could get tips from any coach about, how you should run your business, how to market or places maybe you should go apply for representation or something like that, especially after you've worked with them for a while because they know you. But I certainly wouldn't expect a coach who, their specialty is animation to recommend, how I go about marketing to production companies or something.
No, not like
I mean?
that. No, and that's not what I meant. I meant they should be doing everything in their coaching skills to have you be ready to do that line of work.
Okay, sure. Yeah. Sure. And the goal shouldn't be the demo. The demo is sort of ancillary, right? It's a piece of collateral that you need to do the work, to get the work. But that shouldn't be the goal. The goal should be to get you the skills that you need to book the work to make money, because we're businesses and we're doing this to make money. We're not just, I don't want to be a starving artist. Sorry.
Nope. Sorry. Also,
anybody could be that.
Also, I think it's important to look at the delivery of instruction. So not everybody wants to do in person, and that's okay. There are folks that are, they're doing that now. I know, especially in the big cities, in the, LA, Chicago, New York, they have studio options. There are others who do things just by phone. Some use Zoom. So, I mean, there's different ways of delivery and instruction. And the three of us were also in a program that took voice actors from all over and got together. Was it every other weekend? I think.
Yeah, bi-weekly, yeah.
Okay.
Or
I already
bi-monthly.
forgot. Bi-monthly. But you're working with
every
the whole,
other week.
But does that make you comfortable? I was comfortable in the group because everybody was at different levels.
Sure.
I just didn't have the time to invest anymore because it was a lot of prep work and a lot of, I'm also a baseball mom. So usually my weekends are busy and during the week doesn't work well for me either. So I kind of fell off that particular coaching method because it didn't work for me. And that's okay. What matters to you as a voice actor is going to determine who you work with and who will resonate with you best. So finding out through other folks, hey, have you ever heard of so-and-so? And, and if they did, oh yeah, I coached with them for this, that, and the other thing. Like I also had a very specific promo coach that I worked with for my promo demo. And she was great. I ended up having a great outcome, but it was just a 1-hour coaching session. I didn't need anything additional. If somebody asked me about it, I would say, yes, I had a very good experience, but I don't know how that would work for anybody else.
How do you feel about short-term coaching lessons or workshops?
Like workout groups?
Yeah. Or if you need just a refresher.
Sure. Like a 3-hour workshop or something. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love them. That's kind of a blanket statement because they're not all good, but most that I've done have been really good. Some of those have been at conferences, One Voice and VO Atlanta in particular. Some have just been online through various sources. Ace Studios does some good ones.
So the Acting and Voice Studio?
Yeah, Acting and Voice Studio.
Yeah.
Real Voice LA. All three of those have pretty good workshops and workouts and so forth. In fact, that's how I got my agent.
But that's a little different. That's another podcast about workshops.
Well, but I would say...
But you can find a good coach through them.
It's also potentially a good option if you can't afford or for whatever reason can't justify paying for one-on-one coaching. As a short-term, less expensive solution, you could do, group workouts or group coaching, which tends to be cheaper because, you're in class with a group of people. It's not all you, but there's benefit there, right? Because you're seeing how other people interpret copy and the feedback they get.
Yep.
and then you do yours and you get feedback. And so you're learning not just from, feedback on your interpretation, but feedback to other people as well. And I did that for several months, almost every week. It's like 6 months, I think, with the Voiceover gurus. They have online workouts, and they were wonderful. I got a lot out of it, but I got to a point where I was kind of enough.
It happens,
right?
Right.
I won't say that I outgrew it, but I was ready for something more, something different, and that was about the
Right.
time that I started working with Nancy.
Wasn't COVID a great time to just do workouts?
Oh, it really was.
It was.
And honestly, can I also give a shout out to a casting director who she has put together a library. I think you folks might know about it. Tina Marasco's library.
Yeah.
She also offers private coaching, which I've done with her as well, which is really nice because she can tell you which, if you've auditioned for her, I certainly wouldn't choose her, do a private coaching session with her if you've never had a Sound and Fury audition in front of you. It would kind of be a little strange. But she has the private coaching. She can tell you, oh, here you were in the short file, right? The short list. And here, you weren't. But here's the one who booked the job. And you can listen to how, their delivery, and then she'll listen to your delivery. And then you kind of work on the copy again, or she'll give you new copy. And you're getting that live from casting kind of one-on-one time. And to me, that was so insightful.
Yeah.
Because I realized how often I was trying to change my voice to make myself sound younger. And it loses all its authenticity when you do that. But that kind of, it's almost like we all know better. We know when we do it, but we're just trying to think, ooh, how do I book that job? But having someone who's on the casting side kind of coach you through those little nuances in terms of really being grounded. And she has that online library, which is all, you can work at it at your own pace, or you can do, and that's kind of a different kind of set of coaching, but I find super helpful because that's her every day. She knows what's booking. She knows what's not. And I think to me, that was really helpful.
For to find out about your coach. I mean, are they paying attention, or are they still trying to teach you something that is so 10 years ago?
Or just irrelevant to whatever it is you want to pursue. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, coaching, it's an important relationship, right? So there's a lot of trust involved, and you got to have a certain level of personal connection to really fully benefit from it. So,
yeah.
I mean, if possible, I would say you do a trial session. Certainly don't find a coach and go, oh, I'm going to buy your package of 6 lessons when you've never worked with them before, because maybe you're not a good fit. And then you're stuck with, 5 more sessions with somebody that you just don't like. Yeah, it could happen.
Right.
So do one. Find a coach you think you might be interested in, and do one and see if you're a good fit. One should be enough to get an idea, because in an hour, you're going to find out if you don't like them. Right? You might not find out if they're the perfect fit, but you're going to find out if they're not.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Fully agree.
We've all had that coach.
Let's go!
Research. Have to do your research. Seriously, that's it for me. And I'm a wimp today. I've got water in the booth. I've got auditions I need to get to when we're done here. So I'm hydrating. Boo.
I say figure out what you want and find the right coach. There's plenty of resources to look at to find coaches.
I think I would say it's okay if you don't find the right coach right away. Try some on, see what fits. And it's okay to have more than one. You don't need just one coach. You could have 5 at the same time even. A lot of what they tell you is going to be similar. A lot is going to be different. Some of it might be conflicting. But you take everybody's viewpoint and you figure out what works for you, and you make your thing go. And in terms of red flags, anybody who's promising that you're going to succeed, no. Run away. If it sounds too good to be true, it probably is.
It is.
So just do your research, get recommendations from other people. If you can get references from the coach that you're looking at, who's worked with them, who's had success, that you can go talk to, that'd be good.
Even better.
And, and if they're not willing to share that, that's probably another red flag.
This is crazy. This has been a serious podcast.
So not normal for us.
But I think you finished a beer. Did you not, Al?
Oh,
yes.
Oh, we are in the bar.
We are at the bar. I know. And I'm over here like,
podcast.
Yes. And I saw you arrived though, and it wasn't full. So you've already had a little bit before we
You
started.
got to tune up for these things.
Oh, there.
All right. Well, there you go, folks. We're not always silly. Sometimes we can be serious when the topic requires it.
Indeed.
Yeah. Do your research. Find you a good coach.
Hope you learned something.
And we'll see you next week.